Oh, like
No.
is there actually a live show?
There actually.
Oh, like we actually have to do this?
There actually is a live show.
10-minute delay.
Nope.
Yeah, no, it's gonna be real. So,
So yeah, as soon as they'll give us a thing saying we're live now.
and
at
of course,
some point.
people out there don't know your penchant
so-
for
We
constant
already had the
cursing and
live.
swearing. So
We had a live
you're
show
gonna
last
wanna-
week, though.
You're gonna want to like
Hang
Tone
on,
it
guys.
down
Looks
a
like
bit.
we're live this
tone
morning.
the
Are we
swearing
live?
down, because there's
Hey
98%
guys, we're
of our
live.
viewership are
Oh, we're
children.
live.
We're live.
Oh, we're live. Oh, good.
Hey,
Hi.
TCS viewers, it's Saturday.
Oh,
without
hello.
too much notice, we are doing a live show.
Yeah.
Because something happened this week that we felt like we should probably talk about.
Well, of course, there was a big announcement. The brand new Fuji XH1 is out, and first off, let's refer
The
to
biggest announcement
the
is
person
that
to
Billy
our-
is in Calgary.
So Billy is a manager with Fuji Canada, and not only that, you are one of the original Fuji guys, which
One of the
means
originals, yes.
you are inherently our competition. But
of
we
them.
are but graciously we're having you on. No, and Billy's done a lot of projects with us before,
Yeah.
and you've been on our show before. So thank you for coming, talk about your brand new camera.
Thank you for having me here.
And
Yeah.
hopefully you're going to be able to catch this on YouTube. We did our wooden nickels using the XH1. A lot of astute viewers figured out that it might be on the XH1, even though we were very good. We didn't spoil it.
Yeah, no.
We just said that we lied and said Fuji gave us a cabriolet,
I
and
think
that's
we were
why.
the only people in the world that didn't leak this camera.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. But we did our wooden nickels last night, and honestly, it was a great event. It went
It was
really well.
cool.
It's a
And
beautiful
that was
theater.
thanks to you sponsoring
Yeah.
it. And
So for people who might not know, we actually screened the Wooden Nickels episode that's up on YouTube, just went up an hour ago. We screened it at a movie theater.
yes, first time ever.
Yeah, to see how it actually played on the big screen, and it looked pretty good.
Yeah, I thought it was very, very good. It was a fun event. It was a great event, and so please watch that. But yeah, we shot it all in the XH1, and of course, you guys are pushing this as a hybrid camera, like a true hybrid camera, something that can really do video and stills.
Yeah. So the Fujifilm X-H1, I
Yeah.
mean, it's a high performance camera, right? I mean, it's not just about the autofocus system or the tracking, but the overall system itself, the durability. Those are some of the things that make this really a high performance. It is somewhat hybrid as well because, of course, as Fuji expands the video component side, we started obviously with the X Pro 2. That was
Right.
really the first start of sort of better quality.
It was a start
and
for sure.
and then from that we built, with the XT2 and then
I think the XT2 is like the first camera really where people are like, oh yeah, they're taking it seriously.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
you're making some inroads to really doing this as a proper
Yeah, like
thing.
we shot a little bit on the X Pro 2 to kind of show that we could.
Sure.
But at no point was I like, this is something that
Oh,
I
yeah.
can use day to day.
Right.
The XT2, when we shot in Japan, that was the first time I was like, while shooting it, that there were some annoyances and things like that.
But it was a manageable
But then
camera
once
to use.
I got the footage back, I was like, oh, I don't have to color grade
Oh,
this
yeah.
really at all, which I loved.
And a
I
log
think-
profile. I mean, honestly, it wasn't very long ago. I mean, it was only probably 3-4 years ago where we're doing Fuji camera reviews, and every time we got to the video portion, it'd be like, oh, and it's a Fuji, so
the
don't
audio
worry
is-
about the. Don't worry about
Yeah,
that.
it is. It's amazing to see how quickly they've gone from the
Nothing,
worst
yeah.
to very, very competitive.
Yeah.
In the video market.
Yeah, so I do like this camera. I mean, one of the pro items about this high performance item is the body structure itself, right? It's magnesium alloy. It's
Totally
similar,
different than.
It's similar to the XT2, but I mean it's 25% thicker.
It's not the same as the XT.
It's pretty much the same, construction of a 1DS, Mark III, right?
Right,
And
so you're trying to
it's
make this
really
brutal.
pro level.
Brutally rugged, able to handle anything people can throw at it. I mean, the big thing people are going to notice from a design standpoint. Thank you, Billy.
Yeah.
From a design standpoint, the big thing that people are going to notice is this looks like a GFX. Like, this is a departure from the XT2's retro SLR kind of lines. You're going for something that's definitely more. I would say. I mean, it's serious looking.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like the GFX. It's not retro looking.
Yeah.
Yeah, it still has the dials are kind of the last throwback, but that little OLED, it's an OLED, right? The display on top.
On
Or what is
top.
that
Well,
little fancy pants
it's
thing?
a white memory screen, right? So like an ebook reader.
Oh, right,
style,
okay.
so it's
yeah, yeah.
very low
So you
power.
can stare at this for hours with no eye strain.
Yeah, very low battery consumption. Yeah. Now, I mean, I know a lot of our viewers are obviously watching from out of town, and you're not gonna be able to do it. But here in Calgary, you're gonna be here all day. So anybody who is local, you do have to get down and feel this camera because it is a very big departure in the weight, the grip, just the overall feel from what you might be thinking an
Yeah,
XT2 or
the
XT3
ergonomics
would
was,
be like.
of course, very important with this camera design. The buttons themselves were bigger.
Yeah.
Some of the buttons have a little bit like a convex shape to it to make it easier to press. You have bigger gloves, or you're shooting in the cold. You know, the gloves are much easier. Dials are slightly bigger as well, and of course the grip is bigger. And I think a lot of people have been asking us, you know, it's great that mirrorless cameras are so small and lightweight. But, you know, we work with, you know, big lenses, big focal length.
Yeah.
And, you know, sometimes we need that better balance. And this is where this camera fits in. It's really just above the XT2 X Pro 2 lineup. So it's a completely different, you know, model line.
Right.
It will pretty much continue on that route. So it's kind of a uniqueness that if you need that performance, that higher performance, the XH1 is for you. And if you want sort of the mirrorless benefits, the XT2 is, you know, kind of an amazing camera.
Well, and I can certainly say, like, right now, let's just take a moment. I've got the 18 to 55 lens that I would have killed several people to have in Japan when we were shooting with the XT2.
MKX lens, by the way.
MKX,
Yes.
yeah.
Lens,
Yes.
So we love the Sony version of this. We've got it on this, and I was saying before, like, why is this thing taking so long? Like, just switch the ring on the back of it. But it is really sweet. We've got electronic contacts with this,
That's
so I can actually see my aperture on the display. Not that that's functioning right now. This is still pre-production, so I'm twisting it, and we're still saying 3.4. But on the final version, that'll be addressed. But yeah, you've got all of that carrying straight over. So we do have communication going back and forth. Yeah, and I think it's
Beautiful
it
weight,
certainly
good price
legitimizes
point.
this. And the biggest thing for me, I'm not a big fan of the Nikon Fuji focus direction. This focuses the way that my brain understands, which is also really great. So if your muscle memory is wired that way,
If you're a Canon user, you'll like this. Yes.
Canon, Panasonic,
Right,
Sony.
and then, you know, if you cannot afford an MKX lens, right, you know, there's actually a new feature on the XH1 that allows you to change the manual focus to a linear. You know, so if you're looking at, you know, a 2 o'clock and a 4 o'clock pole, right, when you turn it to those directions, and it's going to focus to those positions.
Yeah.
So currently right now it's a non-linear where you rotate. The faster you rotate, the faster that focus moves, right? To that
'cause-
point.
yeah, like
and
by
so as a
wire, yeah.
video person, you now have this linear option, which you know really makes it useful for manual focus lenses or even Fuji lenses when you want to shoot in manual.
For
right?
sure. Now it's a bit off topic, but while we're on it, why don't we just talk about it? MKX lenses. This is the 1855, and then there's a longer version as well.
50 to 135.
Yes.
Yeah,
50,
5135. So price points roughly on those, Billy.
Yeah, so the 1855 is approximately $5,000 Canadian.
Okay.
And the longer zoom version of that is just $500 more, so $5,500.
5,500. I know that's expensive. Obviously, those are expensive prices, but when you get into the world of cinema glass, it's actually really affordable. I mean, that was the thing that blew us away. These lenses are compact. They're beautifully sharp. They're very affordable as cinema lenses go, and on top of that, they are parfocal, and there's no breathing.
Right, like the biggest difference between a photographic lens and a cine lens is the suppression of things like lens breathing and
the parfocals.
Losing
the
focal, yeah.
parfocals and the optical axis. I mean, when you zoom in, zoom out,
And if
you
you
want
guys-
it always to be dead center. It's very important in
If you
in
guys
cinema
want to
world.
kick over to my laptop here, so we didn't have access to the MKX lenses when we shot the collateral scene. So over here you can see this is the Cabrio.
We
that
use the
did,
Cabrio for
which
yeah,
I think
for
is
this.
what is that, Billy? Like 25 grand? Or something like that?
It's more than I can afford. I guess.
And in a lot of ways, I would prefer to actually
Sure.
have this guy. You know, it's a shorter focal length, but it's brighter and it's very manageable on a smaller body like this.
Yeah.
So it certainly fills a niche for a fifth of a comparable.
Yeah,
product.
absolutely. I mean, it certainly shows you guys are trying to make efforts. I mean, you've always made video lenses, but now really to combine it with a camera like this, it's an interesting package.
Yeah. The other thing I did want to touch on before we start taking some questions quickly
Yes.
is the in-camera processing of this. So first of all, while we got the laptop still hooked up there, all the BTS from our Wooden Nickels episode was shot by Levi Hallwell
Yeah.
in the Eterna profile. So I went and checked it the other day, and the only grades that we've got applied to this are a couple exposure corrections. But
Right.
in terms of color, contrast, everything
Everything
like
skin
that,
tone, all left alone.
this is
yeah.
all straight out of camera. And yeah, I would say totally usable image.
Yeah,
right out of
I
it.
love the footage actually. Like, it's really shocking to see out of the camera how the skin tones look.
Yeah.
How the shadows and how just the light fall off. Is really cool. Like I think, this this new color science that we're bringing to sort of from photo to the video world is quite impressive. And of course, Eterna Film Simulation Mode is one of our newest features, but it also works on the photo side of things as well.
Sure, yeah.
And that's how I'm going to take all my photos, because I thought it was a beautiful profile. The other big thing, too, is we've got F-Log on this internally as opposed to requiring an external recorder for it.
Yeah, and that was a weird thing with the XT2. You had to go to an external recorder. So of course we don't have 10-bit video. It is 8-bit, 420 in camera, but you do get F-Log internally. And it comes with the camera. You don't have to buy it as a firmware upgrade or anything like that.
And then if you want the external HDMI, you got 422.
422 8-bit, yeah.
And then, of course, we're offering the LUT file for Eterna. So I mean, it's kind of...
And if you have Hollywood colorists, then this is the kind of result that you can get. Switch over there.
When we did the BTS, so this was interesting. I mean, and again, hopefully you'll go on YouTube, watch the XH1 Wooden Nickels, because we do the BTS, and Nick from DDG, he actually talks to his friend Tyler Roth from Company 3. I mean, we're talking Hollywood grading. But actually, one of the most interesting parts about that whole talk was Tyler saying, I love the skin tone. It was actually this scene that's on the computer right now. He's like, I love the skin tone. I didn't touch it. And this is where I would actually edit other footage down too. Yeah. And he's like, with the Eternal LUT, the skin tones are bang on.
Yeah, and I cut that way down because it was a 45-minute grading session. But the takeaway was it's like the first 5 steps to a proper color grade
are already done
from you with the Eternal LUT. And then you can start making creative decisions. This is still quite heavily graded.
Of course.
But that initial step is done.
But yeah, the roll-off on the skin tones is great.
Yeah. Let's take some questions, guys.
Yeah,
right.
I mean, this is a good opportunity to ask anything you want to ask about it.
Okay.
It's a big grip, man.
Yeah, it is. I mean, but my hands is a little bit big on me, but I'm not the average customer for this.
I love it. I've got big, beefy man hands with a big lens, and it feels great right now.
Yeah, Jordan's probably very comfortable holding this. I mean, it's not bad. I do feel like it pinches a little bit into the pad of my thumb here, but you hold a little bit lower. I mean, I'm not going to drop it.
We had a project, and we had like over 30 photographers handle this before launch, and almost every single person in that group loved the way the fit and the grip was. So if you compare me per se with small hands and these guys, and some girls as well, they all felt like that was like the perfect fit.
Yeah, you obviously hate this camera.
And if you went down and said that's too big, well, we got the XT2. We got the XT20, those are
and you just kind of have to use
styles.
it. I mean, it's not bad. I could see this really appealing to people wanting to shoot long lenses, using a grip, that kind of stuff. Hi, David.
All right,
Ronnie.
Okay, so is Fuji going to implement the Eterna profile in the XT2 as well?
That's a good question.
If you get an external recorder
Huzzah.
and shoot F-Log,
which you're going to probably do anyways, yes.
Then yes, you do have access to that.
Exactly. So I mean, right now there's obviously no plans at the moment. However, with the XT2, it does offer this uncompressed HDMI out, and that same LUT that we're providing can be used for that.
On that footage,
so you got basically Eterna.
So from a cinematic point of view, if you are going to be serious about using the XT2 for video, then you're probably going to be using it in that workflow anyways.
And that's what this footage was filming with the 4K recorder anyways. Right?
Yeah. We kicked this out to an Odyssey. For that.
Yeah.
But I mean, I would love to see it again, just because even for photo and stuff like that, it's a beautiful profile. So I'll put that on. This is the great thing about Fuji is we lock eyes with Billy, and I say I would like an Eternal LUT on an XT2
and it happens. It just happens. Yeah. Billy even said, whatever we ask for, we get.
So you heard it here, people.
I want you to shave the grip down.
Yeah, you know what? Actually, a few years I came back to the store here, right? And you guys, I asked you guys like what features you would like to see in a video, right? Camera. And we took that list. We went to Japan several times, and we went through that list.
And we talked about movie film simulation and the 48th of a second 90-degree shutter speed in Japan over a year ago, and then
I remember that. Yeah, we actually sat down with the execs and we got to talk about it. That's pretty cool.
The magic happens.
So just to be clear, these cameras that you don't have 180 degrees angle shutter settings, but you have proper 180 degrees equivalent shutter speeds.
If you guys kick over to the
if you kick over to my
kick over Ron's face,
horrible beard.
Face. Yeah. But you can see there SS.48, right? So you're not shooting 50th like most cameras do. You're actually getting a proper 180
a true
degrees.
180 degree shutter on them. The other thing I will mention is we've got a big, that we're zoomed in all the way at 55 mils on this thing, and hand holding this sucker.
It'll make everybody vomit.
So
It
zoom
is
out and
rock solid
prove
on
the
that.
dominance of this lens.
Yeah, so of course, this
Very
is
solid
this
with
is
the grip and stabilizer.
this is a prototype lens right now.
yeah, let's switch
so
away from
the,
that
the
area.
camera itself doesn't have the
Dominance.
latest firmware to support because with IBIS, to be very good, you need the focal length, right?
And I'm sure we're going to have a lot
You
of
need
questions
to,
about IBIS. We definitely.
yeah.
Any other questions there, Ron?
Okay, just as a follow-up, will internal F-Log come to the XT2 since they have the same processor?
I thought this one had dual processors. And
Hey,
the XT2
there you go.
doesn't. Isn't that
Yeah.
correct?
So I didn't understand that question.
Oh, they're wondering, are we going to see F-Log internally incorporated in the XT2
Internally,
because they have the same processor? But I don't believe they do have the same
well,
processor.
actually, both the cameras do.
Okay.
It's the same X trans sensor
Right.
and X processor
Okay.
Pro. So it is very possible, of course,
Ooh.
and it's something that we're always looking to, and if the demand is great, right? We'll
Tell us
always.
in the comments if the demand is
think,
great.
I think that's really one of the key points on the Fuji system. Aside from the great dials and the great controls
Yep.
on the camera and of course image quality, is that we like to constantly improve the cameras as much as we can. Just recently we announced 2 new firmwares, right? One for the GFX. For anyone using adapted lenses, there's now a 35 millimeter crop to
Yep.
that as well.
Okay.
There's focus stacking options if you want to really get everything in focus, like shooting with a cell phone close up. And of course, the XT20, we pretty much improved the autofocus similar
to
to
the
the
XT3
XT3
level, yeah.
Some extra touch controls to that.
Which
So,
I remember you guys
know,
talking about that, and it's been implemented. I mean, that is great. Fuji
Yeah,
does
yeah.
usually give you very good support, even years down the line. I mean, again, 4K on the X Pro 2, like all these sort of
Right,
upgrades,
right.
where
So
you're
who
like,
knows?
they don't care about my camera anymore, and all of a sudden, like, hey, we're going to give you another new feature. So you've always been good that way, for sure.
Yeah, and I do have to give you guys credit. I think a lot of the firmware culture that we're seeing now from companies like Panasonic are really
Started with
starting to
Fuji,
strap up in
yeah.
that. Fuji got the ball rolling on that, and now it's become an expectation.
Yeah,
which I think is
Canon
great. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, let's burn that.
Why-
and Nikon. And
Okay.
Nikon, to be honest.
Why why still the weak battery? Or rather, why they didn't consider a bigger battery and
Right.
the big grip?
Yeah, fair enough.
So the the XH1, of course, can come with an optional vertical battery grip. You can buy it as a kit. So the kit with the camera is approximately $2,850.
We're looking at
um,
24 for the body alone and about 28.
28 for the grip kit.
And the body,
But the grip kit comes with 3 batteries, and that's going to give you over 900 shots. Now we had, obviously a lot of our existing customers owning Fuji cameras, and one of the appeals of sort of keeping the battery system is that they can carry on. This could be the secondary update camera. It could be an X Pro
Right.
2 or XT2, and then they have the XH1, and the batteries being compatible, which to me I think it's a huge benefit, right?
I mean, I suppose
And-
if you are going to use this as a camera besides an XT2, you're building up a Fuji collection, then yes, that makes sense. You'll have a lot of batteries that are all going to match.
Right.
But you need a lot of batteries. And to be
Yes.
fair, the XH1, I mean, what's nice about the Sony, like the A9, the A7R3, and probably any cameras in the future, they have a new Z-type battery. It does mean you have to buy new batteries, but they last a long time, right? However, you guys are making this camera, and in a lot of ways, you don't have to have a grip, but it really, much like the XT2, shines when you have the grip.
It does shine. There's some advantages. You bring up the frame rate up to 11 frames per second. From
Faster
8.
frame rate.
Okay, you got
Headphone jack that everyone should be using.
Yeah, like if you're going to do video and you want to monitor your audio, which you do, you're going to have the grip.
Yes, absolutely. And,
Having extra battery life, just like the XT2,
and it comes
you
with
need
an
the grip.
AC adapter. So if you are real serious about filming, you can run power through the AC.
That's
but
exactly
also,
what we did for the collateral scene.
But also, it actually charges the batteries as well. So I mean,
Yep.
there's not that big of a concern. We definitely like to see that improvement down the road. Who
Sure.
knows? But I think to be simple and fair to our customers, we felt like a lot of existing customers who were looking for a secondary body. They didn't have to go and just spend a whole lot more money to
On new
to
batteries.
switch batteries. Right?
Yep.
I do have a couple of quick ones. the USB, does that charge in camera now?
Yes, it does. Yeah.
Awesome.
Okay.
Yeah.
Love that.
USB 3 interface, yeah.
The other thing I wanted to touch on is, I mean, it was very public a few years back when there was an interview and they said our lens mount will not support IBIS. It will degrade image quality too
Yes.
much. And I mean, we've talked a lot about how technology changes. We found workarounds. Can you say specifically what might have been done to make this possible?
Absolutely. I mean, the IBIS system for us, we understand how that works with pretty much all the brands. We felt that it was a very strong feature to incorporate it. And, at that time when we said that statement, the technology for us wasn't there yet, because when we develop our cameras, image quality is number one for us, and we know that with IBIS there's always some sort of loss in that, and so we needed to develop a system where we still maintain sort of that high strict image quality, and that really was it successful with this camera. We had to make this IBIS system a little bit larger in order to do so. So that's why the XH1 itself is
bigger.
slightly bigger to accommodate that. But the stabilization factor of it is quite incredible. It's a dual processor, right? It's the only IBIS system that has a dual processor that can calculate over 10,000 calculations, and that's going to instantly, correct for any movement. I think, for photos, for videos, for using manual focus lenses or manual lenses that don't have the OIS in it, and
Right.
for the 16 to 55, which is super stunning, you now have this amazing, 5 stops of image stabilization,
So-
and 5.5 on even
Right.
very fast primes. Like
So
the
we're
35,
pushing
140.
5 for the most part with most lenses. You can
Yes.
get a little bit better out of certain fast primes.
Yes.
It's kind of cool because I remember when the X Pro 1 first came out, you and I did this. We slapped it on, just like waved it in front of a full frame sensor to figure out how much coverage we got.
Right.
We figured it was pretty close to APS-H, some of those early primes. Tons
Right.
of coverage.
Extra light.
And you're going to get better stabilization off
That's
of
right.
those because the sensor can move
Yeah.
around a little bit more.
That's right, and the way I guess just to talk about the sensor itself, I mean it's a 5-axis image stabilization. Then you got a gyro that handles 3-axis and a accelerometer that handles sort of the shift in that. There's a combination, so if the camera doesn't have OIS, then it's the body doing that completely.
Right.
5 stops of 5 axis of that. If the lens has OIS, then it's going to use some of the shift axis because it's put more stronger on the lens than it is in the body.
Right.
Especially
And-
telephotos.
Especially telephotos, and then with our latest, advanced OIS on like the macro lens, which is quite a leap ahead. We use a lot of the axis on that because it's actually
Right.
so good. Now you can take this camera and put it on a gimbal as well, and now you have the body working in conjunction with the gimbal, and it does add an extra level of stability.
But I mean, let's be straight out here. I mean, video people are going to love that. The IBIS is definitely a requirement now for a lot of video work.
And it works
for
great
sure.
because of the way it super samples. There is a mild crop on top of it, so
Right.
that gives the sensor. It seems to me even more when I switch it to video mode. It seems to be even
Much-
more stable while
Right,
walking.
and
than
corner
photo
sharpness will
mode.
be
Yeah,
negative.
yeah.
But it is a trade-off, right? So if we go to stills, you're now looking at a trade-off. There's lots of situations where it's better to have IBIS. You can keep your ISOs lower, you can shoot at slower shutter speeds, and get sharp pictures
Yeah,
without noise.
I think the goal in our system is always image quality.
Okay.
And I think obviously the designers and product planners did an amazing job with the IBIS
But there's
system
still a trade-off.
to really maintain the quality to the highest level,
Right.
and that's again a key importance of this for us.
Yeah.
But yeah, to be fair, there's lots of photos where corner sharpness isn't a big deal. We're gonna have to see. I mean, we haven't done a full review yet. I want to
always-
see what kind of degradation, if any, we even do notice.
Wooden nickels is great because it gives us an opportunity to shoot something early.
Yeah.
But for doing the actual reviews, we wait for final firmware, which we should
Exactly.
have very shortly.
Yeah,
here,
and then we'll do
be
proper
on.
review. But I want to see it. But again, I mean, honestly, IBIS has become such a ubiquitous thing with all the other
Yeah.
brands. You have to have it. I mean, and it is very powerful technology. So,
Right, and we have, as I state, the XH1 has its line that keeps going, and we have the XT2 that has its line as well,
Right,
right?
right.
So,
So customers have options.
Those two options there, it's up to you, and I think, there's different customers that this camera appeals to than the XT2, and some customers have both, right?
there you go.
Ron, you
Ronnie?
got something for us, buddy.
Okay, there you go, Fuji Rumors. That was your really long answer to that question. That you were
Yeah,
gonna
yeah.
ask.
Did he ask like?
Patrick. I got you
So,
covered.
Is there?
he asked Jordan's exact question, but wow. Okay, so quick answer. XH1 versus GH5. Stay tuned. As far as
I
body
do think-
stabilization,
and I'm gonna say, like, I do
yes.
think a lot of the early stuff that came out is mismarketing this a little bit. We kept hearing A7S to GH5, and I don't think I liken this to like an A7R2 to like a Canon
Yeah.
5D series, something that's an extremely capable stills
Yeah,
camera
it's
that
high
offers
performance.
video that.
Yep.
You could absolutely, like I was saying, I could get paid with the video for
Yeah.
this camera
I
for
mean,
sure.
yeah.
If my job was video, would it be my primary video tool? I mean, that's debatable, but if I need
Probably
something
not.
that can do both jobs, then yeah, the video on this
Yeah.
is totally workable and it's getting better.
I mean, what's nice is this is a flagship camera for Fuji, right? This is a pinnacle of your technology. You're showing what you can do, what directions you want to move into, and yeah, the video quality is fantastic.
And no one's buying an A7S2 or a GH5 to do professional
Stills,
stills
no.
and video.
Yeah.
They're video cameras that have a stills option. This is a fantastic stills camera that
Happens
shoots
to do really
very
powerful video.
Excellent video.
Yeah,
But-
and I think that's the trade-off in that this does give you that perfect balance, right? You know, you get great photos, but you can also get, you know, great videos.
So
all
does
at
this mean
once.
we're going to see a purpose-built video-specific Fuji in the
Well,
future?
I think, you know, Fuji was always saying that we're somewhat interested in you know, improving video. You know, you guys have always pushed us to improve video, and I think, you know.
Okay, we'll just say it. We want a
this
purpose-built
could be
video
like a nice
camera.
Yeah.
stepping stone for us, of course.
There
right?
you go.
Yeah.
Read into that. However you want. Read into that.
There you go.
else we got, Ron?
Any comments on weather sealing?
So you guys sealed this in over 100 spots. I really want to beat the crap out of one of these cameras, and
We've been
Billy
having a
actually said,
conversation.
"I'm gonna."
Yeah, he's on camera
Yeah, he's
now.
on camera, so and it's live. So Billy said that we can actually take one of the samples and do terrible things to it. So
Yeah, I mean,
This really depends on some of the other manufacturers. We want Olympus, Sony, Panasonic to give us cameras. We
Yes.
want to do a mirrorless weatherproof test. Imaging Resource did an amazing job with the Nikon, Canon, and Sony.
SLRs for Sony.
Yeah,
yeah,
but
but we
I
want to
wanna
do
do
the
all the
mirrorless.
mirrorless.
Yeah. So, and I mean, it feels rugged. Obviously, magnesium body. You made it thicker metal than you normally do on
yeah,
bodies.
and it's just not the thickness as well, but we reinforce the structure as well. So there's rigid areas to keep it very
Hmm. Look
stabilized.
how many screws on there.
You know,
So many screws.
The paint itself has been, you know, increased in terms of the surface, so it's much more scratch resistant as well.
Right.
Which is, you know, something that a working professional is looking for.
So if
especially
you
for
want to
someone
make
with
this
high
look like
performance.
classic, you're gonna have to go at it with a grinder.
You got to really go at
Oh,
it, right? If
man.
you want to do that, but then of course that's what the X100 is for, right? I mean, that's,
Yeah, you brass the hell out of that.
Now
yeah.
the EVF on this camera is super stunning,
Oh.
right? I
Yeah.
don't know if you had a chance, but I mean, you got 3.6 million dot display. It's 100 frames per second refresh rate, and man, if you're on the sidelines of, you know, jumping from a DSLR to a mirrorless camera, you might want to take a look at the viewfinder because you
It
know,
is a nice viewfinder,
A lot
for
of
sure.
photographers that we've seen now look at it, they just then didn't realize, wow, am I actually looking through,
Yep.
you know, an EVF, and that's what this, you know, to us, it's very important. You got this nice, you know, big field of view that's not, you know, tiny and small. You got high resolution, and also what's great is that, you know, when you pull up the EVF to your
Yeah.
eyes, it's now
Very
it's
quick
turning on. Right?
So that was one of my biggest complaints in Japan, right? And I mentioned it, where you bring up the XT20, and as you bring up your eye, there is this noticeable hesitation before the EVF kicks in.
Yeah.
And even if it's not long enough to really screw up a shot, you don't have the confidence to feel like I can bring my eye up, still get a tracking on my moving subject, and then confidently
But
shoot.
it's totally different cameras, right? So we have the
No.
XT20,
It
which
sucked,
is-
but
which you know,
no,
which
it was terrible.
which
But this is great.
very good.
So this is
And
really quick. So
a high performance piece like this, you need to be, you know, at the heat of the action, ready to go. And we
Yes.
also, you know, added this feather touch shutter release, right? It's super soft, super easy.
Is it?
And for someone who's very trigger
Oh,
happy,
yeah, it's
shooting
pretty quick.
sports, it's and you're firing off a bunch of shots. You can shoot up to, you know, 7 frames per second with the new electronic front curtain shutter. There's actually a CM mode there, which is a medium drive mode that basically gives you, you know, no lag in the screen, very fast shooting, as well as constant tracking during that time.
yeah, you're basically looking at 7 frames per second if you want to follow the action real time.
And you can now zoom as well.
Right.
Right? And that's what's kind of cool. What I also like to see, you know, in this, in terms of its autofocus capabilities, is that there's a lot more, you know, keepers now, and that's one of the key points. We took the autofocus point, and you got like 325, you know, AF points.
Yeah.
We broke that up into 5 different areas. In each single area, we broke that up into 4 different areas. In those 4 areas, you got you got phase detection, autofocus points. All these are happening. There's horizontal calculation, vertical calculation, right? And you got 60 different calculations happening simultaneously. So what that means basically is low light shooting has been improved to -1 EV. You know,
Okay.
Focusing and acquiring focus on high frequency subjects. So wildlife, birds, and any animal that has fur.
I don't have fur. I'm half Asian. You know, I don't. What I would say in a quicker way, in a shorter way, is autofocus here is very quick. Much like the X-T2, you do have to set up your customized patterns. You have different options for how the camera focuses.
Right.
It is important that you set those up for the given situation, and then very much like the X-T2, you'll be pleased with the performance in those situations.
Absolutely, and the
But you got to
curve-
customize it.
And the curve on the AFC is very good as well, right? And,
Sure.
and it works as well in video. So, when you are tracking and you are
Ronnie's
zooming,
like-
it's going to follow
Yeah.
with that.
Good God, there's a battalion of questions.
Oh, okay, let's do it. We're gonna shut up. We're gonna shut up and lightning round quickly.
Okay. The kind of nerdy. 4K 17:9 versus
Yeah.
4K Ultra HD 16:9. Any crop difference?
No,
It's in
no, it's-
diagonal field of view.
Yeah, it's a 1.17 crop for both. It's a full readout, so there's no line skipping at all, so you get top image quality.
There you go.
Yeah.
And people love 185. It's great.
Now,
Has,
you turn on film
has the XH1 full sensor readout in 4K?
It's not full sense. So it is. It's a readout.
Full
It's
read.
really frustrating. So it's a readout of a 1.17 crop
Yeah.
of that Super 35 area. So what is the actual resolution? It's like a 16 megapixel scan or something that it's doing to create a 9
Yeah,
megapixel.
it's like over 5,000 by it's really oversampled
Yeah,
at the end of the day.
it's
But you can
oversampled,
obviously
not
check our
full sensor
website.
readout. Yeah.
The specifications are there. You can
But
check it
it's-
out. But it really is highly oversampled,
Yeah.
and that's how we can sort of achieve such high resolution.
super
uh,
sharp,
in
and that does a
in
great job
4K
for
and,
minimizing noise as well.
and
Yes,
DCI
absolutely.
4K as well. Yeah.
All right. What are the major upgrade differences between the XT2 model?
Oh man, we've been doing that.
Okay, cool. Yeah.
I mean, it's high performance,
refer to
right?
earlier
So
on.
You're talking about, the build quality is improved. You're talking about the autofocus accuracy, it's been improved.
Yeah.
You're talking about
Better low light focusing.
the
IBIS.
continuous autofocus. In fact,
One thing,
Yeah.
Faster frame rates.
Yep.
so one thing I do really want to touch on. This is my favorite APS-C shutter since the K3 II.
Really?
Like, I love the shutter
well,
on this. There's
even
no
the shutter
slap.
has been, I guess,
Yeah.
It's super
muffled
quiet.
to
Yeah.
to keep it very quiet. And a lot of movie still photographers that do shoot, they shoot. If they're shooting mirrorless, they're shooting with an electronic shutter.
Yeah.
If they're shooting with a DSLR, they're using a blip. And in the most recent, one of our photographers shot it behind scenes and was so shocked on how quiet it was, to the fact that he said, I can use this almost 70-80% of the time with this electronic front curtain shutter system, and it's super quiet.
Here, hold
It
it-
is
hold
actually-
hold it right up to the shotty.
Yeah. It's actually very quiet
Awesome.
So that's
and very well dampened. I will say
Yes.
though.
Let Ron ask questions.
No, you got to keep in mind though that holding this camera, I mean, just as an impression, because you can't hold it at home right now. I feel like I'm carrying an SLR with an EVF. I mean, it doesn't feel like a mirrorless camera at all.
but not a Leica SL.
Not a
Amazing.
thank God.
and it's
keep
still
going, Ronnie.
it's still mirrorless, so you get all these great advantages.
course.
And you get and it's still lightweight. Even the body size is
It's not
somewhat
that light.
similar. you got to grab one of those DSLRs and put it in your hands. It's
I
one
feel
of
like
those-
I'm carrying
one
it.
of those things, right?
I don't know if that's a challenge. That's it, Billy. You asked for it. All right.
He's taking a Canon 1DS
I'd
Mark
say-
III.
yeah.
Okay.
1DX Mark II. What do you know?
While you guys are yammering, can the 2 card slots dual record video?
So that's a great question. So internally, you can set it up so that the camera can record.
Did you get a D500?
You can record full HD in the camera and output 4K from an external recorder. You can't really record
Right.
video simultaneously to 2 cards, but there is the ability to seamlessly record a clip and it just automatically transitions to the second card. So if I'm filming something and the card is full, it's automatically going to continue to record to the secondary slot without any interruptions whatsoever.
Now, is that kind of a pre-record function? That's what I was thinking about, like during the mention last night at Wooden Nickels.
Yeah,
that,
Pretty close.
that it just kind of spills over, like it knows that it's approaching the end of the card, and then the other card starts kind of running the overlap, or
It just does it seamlessly.
Wow.
Yeah,
Okay,
it's
cool.
It's quite an interesting point.
Chris,
And-
wait thoughts quickly. Now that you've upstaged Billy while he was talking.
Yeah, I just grabbed a D750, which is full frame, of course, with the 24 to 120. I mean, they're pretty close, honestly. From a practical standpoint, I feel like, yeah, I stand by it. This feels like I'm holding an SLR with an EVF, a really nice EVF.
cool.
Which is the direction I think a lot of
Yeah.
cameras are going to go in the next
Yeah,
few years.
I'm not saying it's a bad thing, but
We love our GH5.
Yeah.
Same idea.
Shazam. Can you move the AF points with the touchscreen?
Yes.
yes, you can.
Huzzah.
Although it does
Even-
have the great little joystick here, which is
even,
so good.
even when looking through EVF.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
you
Yeah,
said
some of these improvements that we developed for the XE3, they do transition over,
Yep.
and that's one of the cool things about us, constantly developing and learning is to constantly improve those functionalities.
So why not
like
10-bit, leaving it all to Panasonic?
Good question.
Processing power and
sensor.
heat, right?
Yeah, sensor and processor, right? And 10-bit it's incredible data. I mean, we're talking about over 16 billion colors versus 1 billion color versus 16 million
Yeah,
colors.
as
right?
you can
And,
see there, I mean, that
I mean,
color on the little monitor.
it's crazy.
Yeah,
So the sensor and processor on these cameras here,
Yeah.
don't have the speeds yet. But obviously as technology develops,
Yeah.
that we can obviously see in the future.
Let's
that
not
that
take
could be
away
possible.
from Panasonic's achievement that they were able to do that in this camera.
Yeah,
and that's
and it's great.
fantastic.
Yeah, absolutely.
But the GH5 is really,
It's a micro
for all intents and
filtered
purposes,
sensor.
and for all intents and purposes, it is a video-specific beast. I mean, as much as they want to call it a hybrid, it's a video-specific beast. They really aimed it for that particular thing.
And the side
G9
effect was
can't do
that
that,
it
yeah.
can shoot good video.
Yeah, yeah.
But or good stills.
Yeah, and the
rather.
XH1 being a high performance hybrid, per se, you do get that, right? And that's,
Baby
that's,
steps, right? Baby steps. This is not a baby step. This is a pretty big jump, but baby steps.
Okay. What area does the Phase AF cover?
It's very similar to the XT2, so it's about 90% increase in terms of coverage of that. So it's very close to almost the whole sensor itself.
Well, that's good.
But what's very important is that these the algorithms behind phase detection is much improved, right? Like I mentioned, how much more accurate it is, better in low light, better for high low contrast scenes and high frequency subjects. The tracking is great. Facial detection on 4K video, that's also been improved as well. I mean,
I can't
again,
test it here, Chris. I got a cine lens on. So.
Do you want to?
Here, let me
Yeah.
trade you. Here,
Okay.
take this.
so it's great to have that. And again, as we slowly move and improve the
We're going to
product
use our
itself,
favorite face detect subject, round.
it's one of those features that we like to hear feedback on it, and we try to implement it as best as we can with the
Does Ron have a
know-hows.
face?
Ron has a face.
What?
Let's see how we do.
Rolling shutter.
Whoa.
It's got a little jiggle to it, but it's pretty well controlled. Again, I think that comes to it super sampling that slightly smaller.
Yeah, I think with that in mind, there is always going to be some rolling shutters, but I find that with certain of our lenses, especially the 6-55, it's very, very little. In fact, I think when we're talking about a lot of these hybrid cameras that do videos and photos or try to do that, rolling shutter is there. I felt like with shooting with the XH1, and I had some time to spend in Japan to film our first look video. I didn't feel like rolling shutter was a big issue for me.
Yeah, we didn't really notice. I mean, obviously we're doing a lot of locked off shots, but the IBIS is going to help with that too. I don't think it's a major problem.
Yeah. I think the right lens choices will definitely help. I know with the 56-1.2 it's great, but it does have a little bit more rolling shutter than I noticed. But the 16-55, man, is it amazing? And now with IBIS allowing this to be image stabilized, the 16-55, man, that's the lens to go out and grab.
Ronnie?
We got face detection going
Well,
on
I
here.
try to get face detection up.
Trying to get phase detection up. Okay, cool.
You gotta
We're gonna work on it.
Go to the movie side of things, right? So switch the dials to the movie. And then-
when charging via the grip, is it charging all three batteries simultaneously?
2 in the grip, 1 in the camera, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so actually the AC adapter charges the 2 batteries in the grip.
Okay.
And of course you can plug the USB cable to the body and plug it with a standard phone charger.
Gotcha. So it
to charge our
won't
3.
so it won't charge the battery in the body, but I'm assuming it's like the XT2 where you can also set up a profile for what batteries it drains first and in what order.
Well, it actually drains. You can't set the profile, but it's actually pretty smart. The battery that's out the most is the one
okay.
that drains, and you can see this actually in the display itself.
Oh, okay.
It also notices if you put the older MP batteries in it, and it kind of recommends if you want to get better performance in terms of battery life, that you should use the S version of the batteries.
Okay.
So the MPW126.
So you kept it the same so that existing users can use their batteries, but really they need to buy new batteries.
Well, no, I mean the XT2, the X, they have those the MPS,
Is it working?
the W126S batteries,
Oh, yeah.
right? But yeah, like I
Everyone look
said
at the
again,
camera.
it's
Can we
always
take over there, guys?
Working there?
There we go. Face detectives.
Billy, Fuji Rumor says hello, and will some of the XH1 features, such as faster
features are
AF,
Yeah,
come
doing great.
to other X series cameras via firmware updates?
good question. I mean, like I said again, we recently released a couple firmwares for the XT20 and the GFX, and I think by showing something like that, it's really a good point for Fujifilm, and potentially it's something that who knows, we can see. It's always something we love to continue to develop.
Right.
It is costly. I don't know if people understand that, but when you do firmware updates, there's so much things that go behind it. It's owner's manuals in 50 different languages
Sure.
that we
And a
have
lot
to
of coding.
update, right?
On that note, the XH1 you were talking about how it does have this totally new system of dividing points and the phase detector, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Is that hardware based that's unique to this camera?
Now that's some algorithms
Okay,
that happen. But
okay, so
mind
there-
you, this camera has a much larger heatsink.
Right,
that's
right,
built
right,
into
right.
it, and what that allows us to do is to run the processor much higher beyond what it can be capable of.
Gotcha.
But the heatsink maintains the operable level, right?
Right.
And so I'm not 100% sure if, let's say, the XT2, potentially could take that firmware, but does the heat then go beyond what it can handle internally? Because it wasn't designed for that when
Yeah.
it was developed, right? So it's one of those hard questions to say. Technically, the firmware could be done, right?
But will it work
Physically,
properly? Right.
would properly.
That ties into one other question I had, is this has that much larger heatsink compared to the XT2, but still has the same 15-minute record limit. Do you know what the reasoning for that might be? Is it still just the potential for overheating? Or?
Yeah, it's the sensor themselves still,
Okay.
right? I mean, it's always that. I mean, to have the balance between camera size and heat sink. I mean, we look at cameras that do video like the GH5, right? I mean, it's a micro four thirds camera, and man,
let's look at it.
that's super tiny, right? Like you
Sure,
can get these
yeah.
amazing but look at this camera. It's quite big for a micro four thirds, and that's because there's quite a lot of heat sink in that to run this 422.
You put
10-bit.
there's a spot where you put a block of ice right next to the battery. That's what all that empty space is for.
Okay, Michael, we answered your question about that crop difference.
Yeah,
if
Michael.
you weren't paying attention.
Thank you for asking questions.
Calm down.
Calm down.
Michael, thank you for watching.
Please keep watching, Michael.
Will we see 60 frames a second in 4K?
Right. Again, going back to questions about 10-bit and 60 frames, I think again that's a limitation of hardware, right? The sensor and processor, the readout times on that, it's not there, and so technically, to implement that type of technology means a new technology breakthrough, right?
Gotcha. Okay. Okie dokie.
Must we depress the exposure comp button to adjust exposure, or will there simply be a rock?
A quick. Can you do a quick
front
dial?
Yeah.
Good question.
That's an awesome question.
That's a great question. I
You
think
get a
though,
gold star question asker.
we took our learnings from the medium format GFX 50S.
Yep.
I'm going to try to find out for you.
And we changed the way the button it's actually arranged. You can see it right there. It's slightly different on how you depress the exposure comp dial, and it's actually much easier to rotate. Holding that, it's ergonomically easier, and I think that's kind of the take through. I don't think it's possible to shift the exposure. I could be wrong.
Let's see.
There you go.
Well,
No. You still have to push the button.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's our firmware recommendation. for this
There
one.
you go.
Thanks,
Let's
guys.
see.
Yeah, you can't just force a clip.
Can the IBIS potentially fit on smaller cameras?
Of course, I've got.
Thanks,
the
Fuji Rumors.
Here, take your lens back.
So that's a great question, and I think that relates to cameras like XT20s and XE3s, and currently right now the IBIS system is quite large, and that's why this camera itself is large. We really wanted to maintain image quality, and that was very important for us to develop this system. I think as we learn to grow and develop, who knows where that technology will go.
Billy says things will get better over time.
Any new tethering options like clean HDMI, etc.?
Yeah, completely clean HDMI out on this. Only thing I will say that I would love to see is if you're shooting with an HDMI out and you do have it on auto viewfinder, you will see an interruption. Actually, Ron, can you kick over to my camera, please?
Yep.
Thanks, buddy.
Hey, that's horribly underexposed.
Let's open this way up.
There
we
you go.
And as we move my hand past there is an
man.
interruption in the video feed. I'd love to see that addressed. But otherwise,
Pretty
it's
bad.
clean, it's beautiful. We had it when we were shooting Collateral. It was just running off mains out to
Right.
Convergent Design Recorder the entire time. and it
Now, if
worked
you
great.
actually, what we actually did too was, if you do the tilt screen, because there's a 3-way tilt, it's touch screen now. But if you tilt it out, it disables the eye sensor.
If you guys caught it there, you can
Oh.
you could have seen before the picture-in-picture popped up the 3 different battery indicators, so you can have 3 times the tension of
So
watching your batteries
This is
drain.
actually really great to know. Thank you, Billy.
Yeah, no, it's one of those things
That's really
where
smart.
movies or photos, videos of photos. There was some question about the eye sensor switching in and on and off,
Gotcha.
Yep.
and tilting out does
And
work.
if you're doing low angle with the touch screen, then just
Right,
pull the
right.
screen out, and now it's not
Right.
screwing with me at all.
So just to answer the exposure comp question, I figured out a way. So first off, you can of course customize if you want the front dial to the exposure comp or the rear or both. You can set the exposure comp button so that you can use it as a toggle. So if I hit it once, now my
Now you
dials
can
will just do
rotate,
exposure
right,
comp
right.
freely, and if I hit it again, I can disable that. So that
Is
works.
that good for you, Jordan?
That works,
Yeah.
you
Works.
know.
There we go.
So you could have aperture control on your front dial, and then just have that toggle so that when you do your
That's
rear,
the
it does
benefits of
exposure comp.
having 30 photographers play with this camera
There you go.
beforehand and getting all that feedback. And like I said, we're very serious about a lot of that. I mean, a lot of stuff we get is all over the place. You
Yeah,
want
sure.
everything in a camera.
Yep.
And sometimes it's obviously not possible.
Yeah, and really all you do is you
But,
listen to Jordan and Chris. So
Pretty much, yeah.
That's probably the
Yeah.
best strategy going forward.
Is there a potential ETA for release on the MK lenses?
Yeah, we're looking at, obviously we officially announced the MKX lenses at the same timing as the Fujifilm X-H1.
NAB?
We're looking at pretty much basically spring-summer for availability of this
Okay.
year.
Okay.
Are you going to NAB, Billy?
Maybe.
All right.
You gonna
we'll hang
invite me
out.
though?
Huh?
Yeah.
We'll do it.
Let's see.
There's actually a bigger event up in Hollywood, I believe, right? In
Cinegear is amazing.
In the
Yeah.
studio.
Oh, you want to do Cinegear? It's
So
great.
I think that would be the one that I like to attend.
Feel free to invite me and cover my way, and I will.
You can sleep beside me in a twin bed. How's that?
Oh, good luck
Yeah.
with that.
Twin bed, I said too.
I've been there and done that with Jordan. I didn't sleep very well.
The vloggers apparently want a fully articulating selfie screen.
Small
Yeah.
HD focus, people.
Yeah,
You get your
Yeah,
headphone
buy yourself an
line
external
out.
monitor.
Oh,
Yeah.
man,
Call
that's
yourself
right.
pro.
Small HD focus.
Small
Jeez.
HD is great, right?
Yeah.
It's such a beautiful monitor, and there's that capabilities. And
Yeah.
no,
But yes, I
absolutely,
would
you
love
know,
to see that in this.
On its own,
That's something that definitely maybe down the road.
this is a terrible vlogging camera.
We
Let's
have-
be straight out honest.
Yeah.
It's heavy. You can't rotate the screen. You're gonna have to get the grip for a headphone jack or an external small HD monitor to get the headphone jack audio. Yeah.
But if you put it on
Unless
a
you're
little,
doing like a Cloverfield
giant
thing.
selfie stick, you got face detection. It does
Jeez.
actually
It'll look
quite
great.
well.
This is something
Just running
Max
around?
Yuriev and I were talking about.
oh my arm.
You need a
Max and I
gimbal.
were talking in New York the other day, and I do think Fuji's video autofocus isn't talked about enough. I would say, Canon's at the top, and it's really Sony and Fuji kind of fighting it out
Yeah.
for second place with video autofocus right now. The face detect works great. It does a very nice, smooth focus transition. I think it's kind of undervalued because of that lack of a selfie
If
screen
Fuji
on
made
it.
a sexy little retro-looking camera that had the rotating screen and headphone jack for vloggers specifically, they would eat that up like crazy. and someone
Especially
has
with the straight out of camera color.
and someone has to do it, and then you've got that fake Canon vlog camera, and everybody went crazy over that. Like, that's such a great idea, and of course it doesn't exist. So someone just should make that exist, Billy.
Yeah. Yeah, Billy.
Questions, Ron.
Okay, let's see. No flippy screen. I think we've managed to suss through everything.
Did we
Oh
change
yeah.
this button?
Yeah, it
We
feels
did.
much better now.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. This I hated this. I really did on the original XT2.
Yeah, you in New York.
I
and you were
didn't like
saying
it.
with the slider, yeah.
So this is actually quite a bit easier to open up.
Yeah, again, we're talking about higher performance and all these small little things that we got from people.
Wow.
I wish it was this, I wish it was that, I wish the buttons were bigger, I wish.
So obviously it wasn't just me that complained.
We listen. We do listen. And look, the electronic viewfinder itself, right? Like if
Yeah.
you got a bigger nose, it's sticking out further. I don't know if you noticed that or not.
I didn't, but it says it's covered. Yeah, you're not touching the screen.
Your nose is not really doing touchscreen
And it does give you the space to
Yeah.
move your thumb to
Yeah.
do the focus point, which I love.
So there's quite a lot of improvements for video. Again, just going back, there's like over 20 different improvements. There's time coding as well. if
Yeah,
you want
time
to,
code, yep.
Multiple.
120 frame per second slow mo.
120 second, I like it. I put it as the function button for me. It's quickly a quick jump. I know it's only full HD, but the quality of it is right. It's really
It's very
nice.
good, yeah.
And the fact that you can get this slow-mo, 5 times slow-mo video out of the camera. Again, it's one less step you have to do in post, right? And I think, if you watch, our first look video in Japan, there was quite a lot of slow-mo in that.
You
A lot
did
of
do it.
slow-mo of your
we
face.
love it.
Just making danger eyes at the camera.
But see how
Love it.
dramatic you can get, and we upscale that to 4K because we output the 4K, and it looked really good, and especially with the quality of our lenses. The sharper
there you
the
go.
lenses, the more latitude you have to really, upscale that up to,
Yeah, in the
4K
Wood Nichols
resolution.
episode, you'll see a shot where Noah's slating a shot.
Yes, in slow mo.
in slow-mo, which was quite high ISO. He shot that, I think, at 3200, and the quality's still
Pretty
very
sweet
nice
shot,
on
yeah.
it.
Is there any comments that you have on the sound quality internal?
The
on
internal
the camera?
mic is okay. The tough thing is we weren't able to really test the preamps on this guy because this was still an early camera.
Yeah.
So all the audio that you heard, we recorded externally
Yeah.
into a mixed pre-device.
we did improve the audio though internally. Like you got the much higher bit rate, right?
Okay.
So it's 24 than the past. So the quality actually it is very good.
Yeah, I mean,
We just
I
couldn't
kinda-
test it on
I
these
kind of
ones,
screwed up
yeah.
on you when telling you that you couldn't use the internal, but actually the internal was fine. It was the external that had some concerns that
Oh,
they rectified. So,
going through the mic jack,
if you
okay.
notice the internal recording, it's actually really nice. It does sound. And I was actually surprised to see that. Of course, when you do really film stuff, you do want to use an external mic, right? Because you want to isolate sounds from the camera for sure.
what
but,
you want is
in a
Ron from
pinch-
Whispering Winds with a
Yeah.
boom pole.
Yeah,
following
yeah.
you
Rona
around.
Shovey did.
In
a
a
great job
pinch,
there.
the internal mic has been improved, and that's one of the 20 improvements in the video side of things.
I did,
The sub monitor is cool. It shows independent displays for movies and for photos. So there's quite a lot of upgrades for anyone who is interested. If you're on the sidelines of an XT2 and thinking, should I get this XH1? Man, the IBIS is quite a nice. For its feature alone, I mean, for me, using adapted lenses, especially some of those Russian lenses to do videos,
Yeah.
it's so cool, right?
Well, and just to jump back quickly on the terms of audio, I did have the internal audio because I was using it to sync with our externally
Right.
recorded stuff. And one thing to be careful of is it's quite omnidirectional, so I don't recommend it on a film set where
Right,
everybody's
right.
walking around talking amongst themselves. But I'll have to give it another listen. Honestly, I mostly used it for sync and
Right.
walked away. So we'll test that in our full review,
Absolutely
which
will.
is coming out.
IBIS in conjunction with
IBIS.
the stabilizer on your existing lenses.
Yeah.
Is there any
Yeah.
weird conflicts or?
Yeah, so I mentioned it earlier how it takes the best features from OIS lenses and utilizes that for the access, right?
Yep.
Right.
So you got 5, and if lens, for shift directions are better, it takes those two. It always prioritize the lens OIS because it has more latitude,
Right.
Okay.
But the gyro things like the rotate.
Do you have a rough?
it's in the body?
I know it's silly, but do you have a rough stop level if you're shooting non-stabilized lenses, just relying on the built-in IBIS?
Well, actually, the funny thing is relying just on the stable IBIS with like non-AF lenses, it's quite high. I mean, it's 5 stops. It's,
So
it's
so
quite-
you're saying you get 5 stops with the
great.
built-in stabilizer.
It's really good. Well, so here's one thing though. With manual focus lenses, you have to understand, right? Image stabilization.
Well, even autofocus lenses
so-
that don't have image stabilizer.
And
Yeah, right,
lenses
okay.
that definitely 5 stops, right? And
Okay.
over 5 stops for sure. Like XF35 1.4,
Over
5.5 stops.
Right.
Like that's quite high for that camera. Any lenses that have a much larger image circles, generally prime lenses do, right? They cover more of the sensor, it gives more latitude. But what's important when you use a non-autofocus lens, it only limits it to 3 axis of stabilization. And the reason
Okay.
why for that is because in order to know shift, you need to know subject distance.
Right.
Because there's no commitment, there's no communications, right? So, that's why there's only 3 axis for non-EF, but it's still very good.
Makes
check
sense.
out our video on the Fuji guys. We sort of had M-mount adapter on, and the footage was excellent.
Yeah. And we'll be, again, testing this in our full review now
Yes.
that production cameras are going to be shipping very shortly. We got time for, I think, one
Few
or
more
two
questions, yeah.
And,
Yeah.
yeah.
That's my beard
Oh, we got
hitting
it.
the lav mic. That's making
What's that crazy sound?
that
Yeah.
click.
Ron needs to cut his beard. Could somebody chop Ron's beard off?
Yeah. So, switching over from video to stills mode, will it preserve previous shutter and aperture settings that
Yes.
you've had?
Yes, that's a
it does.
great question.
Yeah.
I think if yes, it will.
Yeah.
It's independent settings.
Totally
which
is.
which is
Just
something
like
that's
Nikon,
very
which
very
I love.
important.
Yeah.
What I also like is that if you are you want to preserve the diode settings on it, then what you can do is enable the silent movie controls.
Yeah,
and
here,
it allows
Ron,
you
can you
to
kick over to my display?
it allows you to adjust the video options independently. You can have a shutter speed dial set to 1/2000 of a second if you're shooting photos, and then when you switch to the video mode, you got these touch controls that are independent. Shutter speeds, aperture,
So
things
here-
like that.
Yeah, so here we've got our movie control. I'm going to activate that, and then jumping out, touching the touch screen here, you can see I've got a movie set function.
Yeah, it doesn't. Does it show? Yeah, it does.
Yeah, there we go.
That's
and
cool.
that's kicking out. So yeah, now we can adjust all of those using the either the thumbstick on it or the touch interface if you don't want to make any sound in
That's
the body.
nice. Yeah.
And yeah, it's the settings that you'd usually want nice quick access to are all sitting there.
But you got-
Including, there's my shutter speed, 48th of a second.
Woo!
Woo.
Yeah.
Do we have user modes on here, like memory recall options?
Yeah, I mean, you got the Q menu button, right? And
Right.
then you can save some of the profiles that you have. In the past, I use, Astia a lot to shoot my photos. I set my shadows to +1, my colors to -3, and it gives me this unique look that I like. And that's one of the cool things that you can set this up and make your own film simulation. So
And
even
it'll be
with
separate for photo and video
and it'll
too,
be
which is
separate
great.
photo and
Right,
video.
but do we have multiple memories where we can save settings in the camera under user mode 1, user mode 2, user mode
Well,
3,
the-
and then switch back and forth between those quickly?
No, not in this yet. However, the ability to actually save the settings on your camera to the computer is possible, right? So it's compatible with XRAW Studio, right? Now you can actually save some
We've
of the.
lost him.
That's it. I liked the camera up till now, and it's just please add that.
But there's a lot of customizable options in there.
Okay.
You have the ability to add your My Menu settings and put
Right.
those in. You got your C1 to C7 options. You can name them as well, so you have some idea of what the heck C2 does, right? If you're shooting,
Alright.
black and white acros,
One more question,
Next. Billy, do you know the oversampling resolution at full HD recording? This is lightning round.
Oh,
Yeah, that's a great question. I do know it, but I don't know it in the sense that.
Amazing. Question answered.
I recall
Okay.
seeing it once on a piece of paper.
It is oversampled as well, just like as 4K is oversampled.
If you know
beyond.
the answer but don't know the answer, don't answer it. Okay, Fuji Rumors is asking, blackout on XH1 shorter than XT2?
Blackout, yes, it is because we've included a electronic front curtain shutter. So that's similar to sort of a GFX medium format where you have the rear shutter now being used
Right.
if you want to, and that helps with blackout time.
Okay.
It helps with frame rate shootings as well. There's also this flicker mode, right? So it,
New flicker mode,
shooting
yeah.
in fluorescent lighting and
But that
and-
slows your
and-
frame rate down a little bit.
Well, yes, at 7 frames per second, you can that's the maximum there. You can shoot in that mode and have more steady exposures, right?
Right.
And that's key point if you're shooting,
Yeah, this camera does shine
In an
at
arena.
7 frames per second. I would definitely say that.
Is there punch focus during record?
Yes, absolutely.
Oh, yeah.
Amazing.
You can use the joystick to move. You can use the touch to do it. It's one of the things.
Next
you guys
run!
asked
Next,
about.
well, you guys, we are
out?
pretty much out of time. Yeah.
Cool. Well,
Folks, thanks for
everyone
joining
stay
us.
tuned for our full review. Is going to
Yes,
be coming
we are
up.
gonna do a full
We're
review.
going to start shooting that very shortly here. But
You're gonna
tell
dip it in water.
everyone to watch.
We're
the
gonna
Wooden
dip it in
Nickels.
water.
Yeah, go
Share
watch
it.
the Wooden
Go
Nickels.
watch Wooden Nickels. We're so proud
Yeah.
of it.
It's
Everybody did an
amazing.
amazing job.
It is
And it
amazing.
really does give you a good example
Yes.
of what this camera can do in a video situation when handled by
Yes.
professionals.
The waitress was amazing in that.
Oh, yeah, Caitlin did a very good job.
Yeah.
Also,
Jeremy Adams will.
and the bartender as well. Yeah,
come down to the
props.
store if you are in Calgary. Get your hands on these cameras. There's a couple here. There's the MKX lenses. You can play with these things, so definitely come down.
Yep, and thanks for coming.
Billy will
out
be
too,
here.
Billy.
You can ask him what he's going to look up what the oversampling is on the
On
HD.
the HD.
When you
Yeah.
come in, he'll be like, "Oh, it's this number."